Annette might have frightened a few of you about the complexities of wind power in the last session. I'm hoping that I can redress that a bit and say that hydro isn't plain sailing, but you can do it on a much more small-scale sort of system. And yes, there's lots of costs up front, but they're not anything like the hundreds of thousands that Annette has experienced with Bay Wind and the like. The Torrs Hydro story begins about 5 years ago, just over 5 years ago. But the original story, I guess, really begins back in the 18th century when Newmilns was a growing, busy mill town, and I think it had something, somebody quoted it 32 mills. I'm not quite sure if that's quite true. They must be quite small, some of them, but there were a lot of mills there powered by the local rivers, and this is Torr Mill, built in the late 1700s, and it burnt down in 1912, but leaving behind what you can just about see, the line of it is a weir, which was the source for our thoughts of power for the 21st century. So this was the site actually in March 2008, before the building began, and on the left you can see the site of the mill and the weir there, and there's actually some of us directors discussing with the contractors who are about to get started on excavating to install our water turbine. There's the site another year on, February 2007 to 2008. So this would be early 2009. The site was actually commissioned in the end of August, beginning of September 2008. As you can say, the landscaping and everything had to be changed quite a bit. We had a few oppositions to that, but in general terms we had a lot of support from the local community there. Underneath the green cage is our reverse Archimedes screw turbine, which we brought in all the way from Nuremberg in Germany. Nobody was offering to build one for us in England, I'm afraid. The reverse Archimedes screw, the system's rated at 63 kilowatts, so compared with wind power it's a small system, but as I say, it's small and local. Predicted at the time to generate 250,000 kilowatt hours. I'll put 250 there, sorry, but per year. And it's equivalent to the electricity consumption of about 50-60 homes. In practice, it never quite worked out quite like that, and the technology and everything is, we're learning an awful lot still from the system that we installed. But nevertheless, it runs. Mostly when you want to generate electricity, you need to feed it into the grid. We had some thoughts about supplying a local end user rather than it going into the grid. So we looked at the local leisure centre, the local high school and the local supermarket. And it was the supermarket, being the co-op, I think perhaps partly helped, that has taken it on and agreed to buy all the power that we generate, which is fantastic, and made the next bit of actually making that connection a lot easier than it might have been going elsewhere, I think. We had to cross a road which turned out to be with our power line to get to the supermarket, which turned out to be privately owned. But luckily it was owned by one of our business shareholders, so he was very enabling of it. So we had a mix of funding. We had some grants from the Peak District National Parks Sustainable Development Fund, from our Regional Development Agency, which no longer exists, and from the co-op group as well. We knew we were going to need to take a loan as part of the mix, but we went out to attract a good dollop of community share investment, and that was quite an exciting experience for a local small sleepy little market town in rural Derbyshire. And we had some professional help in the PR side, but which was very effective, and it got national coverage, which really made a difference to people locally thinking, oh, this is local to us, but it's a big national thing, there's national interest in it. And I think that quite helped, really. In the end, we finished up with, there's a little bit of investment information here. We can set our minimum share investment as low or as high as we choose. Some co-ops might set it at £1, and if you're looking for wind power investment, you might set it at £1,000 or
£250. 250.
250.
Yeah.
Right. So yours is quite low as well. I think sometimes I've seen quite high levels of investment for some projects, but perhaps not for you. We set a target to raise £126,000 through share investment, and we launched it. The offer, it wasn't actually as formal as yours. We got withdrawable shares, so our preparation, our invitation to invest cost us a few thousand rather than tens of thousands to produce and have verified legally and all that sort of thing. It was a little bit of a challenge to make it look appealing but be very honest, and we kept saying to people, oh, we need to tell you not to invest, but we want you to invest. It was quite hard to say the two things at once. So we launched it at the end of November 2007. We knew we had to close it by the 31st of January 2008 in order to order the screw from Germany so that we could build the system whilst the Environment Agency would allow us to take account of fish spawning periods of the year. There was only a certain period between March and September when we could actually do the building. So it was quite a tight time scale. We were competing with Christmas, tax bills for some people at the end of January, all sorts of things, and trying to get this idea of something really quite new in our part of Derbyshire at least across to everybody. But it went very well, and lo and behold, we got the money we needed, and roughly half the subscribers come from very close around us, our SK22 postcode. And then others from other parts of the country, about a third from completely elsewhere in the country, but also what was interesting was it was the people from elsewhere in the country that actually brought in the bigger investments. So whilst more local people, there was a high proportion of them, the larger investments came from only a third of our subscribers. And as I say, we had businesses, we had co-ops, and we had individuals investing, which was quite exciting. That's one of our early AGMs. Few big hurdles. Our river is in a gorge. We had to get the turbine into the gorge. We had to lift it over the parapet. Having got it from Germany to Britain, that was the easy bit. Getting it over the parapet of the road bridge that spans the gorge was quite a challenge. And we lowered it down by crane one Sunday morning, and it then took 4 days to move it about 100 yards to where it needed to be located. There was another quite awesome moment a week before our AGM in February 2011, when we had quite a heavy rainstorm, and it brought back down so much silt in the water, and I call it silt because that's what the professionals call it, but it seemed like a large amount of rubble to me in very big stones, and it actually blocked the intake completely, which meant quite a pause in energy production for us whilst we got it sorted out. So to date, we've generated about 635,000 kilowatt hours in total, and since we cleared that silt away, we've had a very good year with all the rain, and we've generated just over 250,000 kilowatt hours in the year to the end of September this year. So, very quickly, the impacts of the project, it's a huge impact to be going and asking local people for money to invest in a local project, and it's just so different, I can't tell you, from having, subscribe and sign up as a friend, and we've got all the grant funding in. The relationship with your community is just unspeakably different, and very empowering to the directors and the people running it, very empowering to the community themselves, and it is iconic in our community. But we also find, we had a group of visitors from Exmoor at one time, and they stayed in a local pub. At breakfast in the morning, the pub staff said to them, so, what's brought you here? And they said, oh, well, we're interested in community-owned renewable energy. To which the pub staff said, oh, we've got one of them. And I know full well they weren't actually shareholders, but they felt that they owned it. And I thought that was really important. The whole community feels that they own it, even if they haven't personally invested. They know the community does own it. And I think that's the difference a lot between community shares and grants. And we've had a lovely experience of providing volunteer opportunities for retired, very senior, very professionally qualified engineers to help sort out some of our teething problems. So which is quite a novel to be able to do that. Anyway, that's me.
Great, thank you, Myra.